I speak Cantonese. Ham hao ma? Your answer should be hao ah. Okay, that's good. So you're learning Cantonese. So next time you go to Hong Kong, it's okay. Hao ma? Then they say hao ah. That means okay now. I'm sorry that because this morning we left almost half hour behind. So again, I'm a very challenging moderator because I still have 4 speakers for my session. And I try to push them a little bit and catch up with the time, all right? So I better introduce the first speaker in this afternoon, all right? But it's a very long, he gave me 3 pages of CV. So I don't know how to introduce him. So instead, I let him introduce himself. Mr. Cruz, he is head of Way Campus National Park, Indo. And he will talk about the challenges, how he run this national park, and he will share with us about digital solutions for how to marketing this. Let's welcome Cruz from Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kus Wandono. Just call me Kus. It's easy, but not Kus, yeah? Okay. I will, sorry, in my slide, that's good morning because it should be in the morning. It's okay, no problem. Okay, I would like to share about nature tourism destination management of Waikambas National Park, Indonesia. Okay, in my terminology, we still using nature tourism because we would like, okay, hope someday we can reach the level as ecotourism. And for our discussion, I would like to share about my challenges and the solution, of course. This is Indonesia, as we know. And we have so many conservation area from Sumatra until Papua and Borneo, Java, Sulawesi. Very big. So if we're talking about nature tourism especially, I'm working for Ministry of Environment and Forestry. So nature tourism inside conservation area managed by this ministry. And I would like to introduce to make our same frequency that the forest we can divide into 3 categories: protected area and in cultivation area. So in cultivation area, we call it production forest, and in protected area, we have protection forest and also conservation forest. In conservation forest, we also have many categories such as nature reserve, wildlife research, national park, and then nature park, and also great forest park, and also hunting park. So I work as a national park director. Conservation area in Indonesia, as shows in this graphic, the biggest area, the largest area is a national park, the blue one in marine, and the green one, as we know, very large area. And I would like directly to introduce about Waikambas National Park. Here, as we see here, Waikambas National Park is, we can see, we have Sumatran elephant, Sumatran tiger, and also Sumatran rhino. Of course, not only those three kind of species. We also have another species, but those three species is a key species of Waikambas National Park. Okay, we starting directly about our challenges. Our challenge on national park management, number one, we have habitat situation. And the second, we have human and wildlife conflict, especially with elephant. And then number three, illegal access. We still have non-timber forest product harvesting and also tree cutting, fishing, animal hunting, and also forest fire. Forest fire closely related to the animal hunting or poaching. Habitat situation, we have history that the forest of Waikambas surrounding also by forest at that time. But during the time, of course, there's a dynamic land use changing around Waikambas forest into other purpose, such as cultivation and also settlement. Here, the history of Waikambas. Actually, the Waikambas forest already as a nature reserve since 1937, before Republic of Indonesia. But in between, until become protection forest on 1978, we have also, we call it HPH, hak pengusahaan hutan, or forest concession. And also there is illegal settlement and also encroachment as well. And then become national park on 1989. And we have opportunity to become ASEAN Heritage Park on 2015, become a fourth AHP in Indonesia. Before that, we only have 3 AHP in Indonesia. And we have record here, the land use changing surrounding the Waikambas forest. Since 1953, we have transmigration program in Probolinggo and then continuing until 1992. This new settlement become the first interaction between wild animal, especially white elephant, with the human, recorded here. Because before that, the surrounding Waikambas forest also as a forest, so the wild elephant come in and out, is become no problem. But since the human arrive in that at that place, it's become a human-elephant conflict, negative interaction, we call it. And until now, we directly bordering with the 38 villages without buffer zone or buffer area. So it's mean someone house, maybe later on, my colleague, Tony, Mr. Tony, will give you a very good experience because his village directly bordering with the national park, and sometimes at the time, the wild elephant will going out from the park area, going inside to his village. This is still our challenge. So it's mean we have animal conflict, or we call it as negative interaction between human and Sumatran elephant with the 38 villages surrounding the park. And we have also record, because all of the wild elephant in Lampung province already translocate or move into Waikambas forest. So it's mean until now, outside of Waikambas, we do not have wild elephant in Lampung province. It's mean no human-elephant conflict in Lampung area except surrounding Waikambas National Park. Why? Okay, this we here. In 1984, we have Gunung Madu. Gunung Madu is sugar sugarcane plantation, and also transmigration area in 1993 also Gedong Aji is for shrimp cultivation and many other development program. It's still a good idea because those plants, they would like to open the habitat of the elephant and then bring the elephant to the forest. But again, maybe at the time we did not calculate that this big population of the elephant will have a negative interaction with the area surrounding the Waikambas. So it means if we would like to develop a kind program as a destination program for tourism, we have to consider this situation as well. This is white elephant crossing the road at the time. And actually we also already conducted many steps of mitigation. Number one, the blue one, we have already embankments and canals. Because we already have 38 villages and also big number of elephant, so it means if we want to live in harmony between the elephant and also with the human, it must be a barrier. Canal and embankments we make as a barrier. And the gray one above there, we have a natural barrier, the river Sungai Wai Pegadungan. And this last year and this year, we try to develop new embankments about 10 kilometers on the yellow line. And mitigation number two, we also establish elephant response unit camp, ERU camp. We have for ERU camp. It means we try to what we call move some elephant. It's about every camp we have between 4 until 6 elephant to the area that usually we have negative interaction. This elephant is trained elephant, so it means we can use to control the wild elephant. And mitigation here, the embankments and the canal. And other mitigation, number 3, we also collaborate with the local community to make it forest ranger partner community for the elephant. And also another one, we try to identify there are 6 groups and 1 male solitary elephant for each group. And the solitary elephant, we put GPS collar. So it means we can identify the movement. So we can inform to the forest ranger partner communities that the elephant maybe will directing to the village, so they have to stay to do blocking. Better we do blocking than elephant already in the village. It will be difficult to make it them back to the forest. And then number 5, we also conducted community assistance. To make it to minimize the victim, maybe the human as a victim, or maybe also the elephant as a victim. Another thing, we make it integrated team, not only the national park and the local community, but also the local government. And then number 7, we prepare about a roadmap and action plan. It means the mitigation of human-elephant conflict, we try to minimize, and we hope someday become 0 victim. And then another thing about illegal access, because as we know, the tropical forest, we have very diverse about the species, and also it's mean will make some person who have unresponsible to do the illegal thing, especially for hunting. So based on the situation, such as this one, we catch 2 persons doing illegal hunting, and one of the white back there actually is the calf of rusa, anak rusa. And we investigate them that they also conducted forest fire 1 week before, and we can prove it. And this person got punishment about 4 years. And this the situation. And another situation, we have also mass tourism. This is inside conservation area, inside the national park. At the time, we conducted this attraction like this. Football, elephant playing football. And then usually in during holiday, such as New Year, like this. It's not so good. So we starting our solution. We try to rebranding about Waikambas, Waikambas National Park, the tourism activities closed during pandemic. I got assignment since 2 years ago, and when in another national park we already opened the tourism activities, but in Waikambas still closed until now. Actually, not only because of the pandemic, but we need to use this momentum to try redesign about tourism activities. We try to make it rebranding, wildlife, nature, culture, experiences of Waikambas. So not only wildlife and nature, but also culture, because we need that nature tourism also make benefit with the local communities, especially for this those 38 villages. So this is our national park, Waikambas National Park. Minutes using zoning, core zone, the red one, and then the green, yellow one, wilderness zone. Rehabilitation zone is the blue one, and also utilization zone is the green one. So if we are talking about nature tourism, we will talk on the utilization zone. And also we have the gray color. What is that? The special zone. Actually, that's also potential for education, because we have sanctuary, breeding sanctuary for Sumatran rhino. But this is not for destination, tourism destination. This is the numbers. Okay, maybe we need also to little bit refresh about conservation. Again, conservation not only protect and preserve, but the most important thing, another thing, that we also have sustainable utilization. So it's mean, such as nature tourism, as environmental services, we can optimize to make a local economic for the local community. So again, this is the picture about the conservation. We have 3 principles, but again, if we have the situation with the local community, we cannot talking only protection and preservation. So for the utilization, we need to also consider about the social culture and also economic for the local community. It means to realize ecological process that support the continuity of life, to improve the welfare of society, and the quality of human life, especially surrounding the national park. So, what about implementation? Okay. Okay, again, it's very important, we think, to develop activities for finding the emotional, especially for the communities. Tony will talking about this after this session. With area of Waikambas National Park. So that way, when ACP running the small grant program, they have livelihood activities as well. We asking, okay, 5 minutes, thank you. We asking to ACP, those activities must be connected to make it closer bonding to the Waikambas National Park. So we also need to think about social and culture and also the economic. So this is the 38 villages must be connected with the Waikambas National Park. So we have at least 8 opportunity of natural tourism for the village. Number one, so we did not need to only depending on natural tourism to the Waikambas National Park, but we also can develop village tourism and also another local cultural attraction, tourist car terminal. So we did not need to, will not allow that every tourist bring their own vehicle, also then motorbike to the national park. When you see those old picture, we will avoid that one. So it means tourist car terminal will also establish the new income for the local communities as well. And then also tourist transportation will be managed by the village, and also food stall and local culinary, and also souvenir kiosks will help by the villages. Also locally processed product, and then also tour guide, interpreter, and facilitator if we talking about that. And then these are our near future plan. Okay, number one, we would like to transforming PLG. PLG previously as Pusat Latihan Gajah, Elephant Training Center. While elephant will be trained, so we can handle to handling the wild elephant. But now, PLG not Pusat Latihan Gajah anymore. We will make it as Pusat Lecture Gajah. We hope the visitor, the tourist, will learn about the elephant, about conservation, about our responsibility to the nature as well. So that will become a best practice on nature tourism destination management inside conservation forest, especially national park, based on wildlife watching. So it means we can only watch the elephant. We cannot ride elephant anymore. We cannot make elephant play football anymore. Many kind of the activities will based on animal welfare, also to optimize conservation education, to minimize negative impact. So we will already make a quota to avoid mass tourism, and also to optimize involvement of local community. Because before that, the income only directly to the government, to the central government. So we hope the village surrounding the Waikambas National Park will also get the benefit from these activities. This is our new plan for the PLG area. Number two, involvement of local community. Okay, number one, we would like to assist development of existing village destination program, such as system management, capacity building, also the quality of the program, promotion and marketing as well. It's very important. Mas Ari, I hope you can help us, yeah, Mas Ari, later on. And number two, to identify and develop other villages' potential. Okay, 1 minute. For culture, culinary, agrotourism, attraction, and also new attraction as destination. And number three, to connect optimize benefit and raise emotional bonding with nature tourism destination within national park forest, and then also to minimize human-elephant conflict. Before that, we only have PLG, Pusat Latihan Gajah, and then Waikanan. So during this small grant program and micro grant, we have also this many kind of activities, such as S1, it means cycle 1, S2, cyclus 2, cycle 2, S4, cycle 4. It conducted livelihood and tourism activities by small grant program ACB in many villages, and also the activities surrounding the national park. It will, okay, it's already, yes. So we hope someday we can, not someday, we already starting from Braja Harjosari, tour program and embankment and canal. And we already started to conduct the tour program for Pegadungan River. We'll connect it Tanjung Tirto, and then the Ranto Jaya Makmur, RGM, and also Cabang. This is many villages already conducted the activities. This is the embankment. You can see this cultivation area is the right side, the left side is Waikambas National Park. Without embankment, usually wild elephants still can going out to the villages. This is the new program in Pegadungan. This is river cruising in Braja Harjosari in Pelitoni. So it's bordering with the national park. So if we can
intune saka susur sungai, apa meneh waktu susur sungai nih pas wayah isu Pak. Wayah isu iki kaya manuk-manuk ya akeh, iwak ya ana, terus kaya pemandangan matahari ku cik mulai jedul kan apik. Terus waktunya juga ya ora pati panas nemen, ya penak, pas mlaku-mlaku juga rada isis.
You see this elephant response unit in Braja Harjosari. So from the village, they still can see the elephant. Okay, another activities also they can honeybee, also fish cultivation, nature tourism guiding, and also homestay. That's a good thing that they also can offering forest restoration, tree plantation, tree adoption program as well, conducted by the local communities. This is not only in the terrestrial, but also in the coastal, the mangrove as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kus. I just wrap up what Kus' presentation. He talked a lot about this, what we call human-animal conflicts. And he gave a lot of example about the elephant issue. I remember this morning, we got example from Laos, we got example from Malaysia, from Albert, right? So it is a really issue. And he talked about that, the solution that providing elephant training center to educate the tourists. That is part of the solution. I think is a good way. And actually from my GSTC training, I'm also a trainer before, that for the GSTC guideline is that we try to minimize our negative impact, but maximize the positive impact. That is some of the guidelines we should follow, right? So thank you, Kus. Okay, not Kus. And then our next speaker, actually we have two speakers for a panel discussion. One is Tony, one is Deki. Again, I let them to introduce themselves. But Tony is from the same national park of Kush, am I correct? Called Way Camas National Park. And then Deki is from the other national park from Indonesia. He is a very good presenter. He gave all the Q&A question and answer to me. Really good, huh? So they will talk about some of the questions that I'm not going to ask them. I ask them right now, okay? So like what is the purpose of ecotourism development in this area? What kind of activities was carried out in the project? And then what are the achievements of the project? And what are the challenges? And what is the sustainability ecotourism project in their park? So they have a lot of interaction and discussion that I'm not familiar. So I let them share their experience and talk with you guys. And let's welcome Tony and Deki. Thank you. You have one.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. I just want to show the video, and then I have presents, so we have quiz. Thank you very much, everyone, and salamat. My name is Tony. I'm the local community in a buffer zone area. So my village, located next to National Park, and we have the big problem before. Like Pak Kus said, the elephant is come to our village, and then a big group of the elephants. There is consists of 20, sometimes 30 elephants in a time. And then now, with the SGP project by Asian for Biodiversity, so we create the ecotourism program, and I will show you a video. I will share the video. And also Diki later on will share about the Gunung Lusiar National Park.
Please do not smoke in the town. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, United Flight 1017 to Calgary is closing doors.
So this is our village. It's quiet and no tourists before. Only in Bali, Jakarta, maybe. Yeah, so we are Balinese and we stay in Sumatra. So we live in Sumatra. All the participants in our tour, in our trip, are locals. Honeybee, same with the others project as well. And we brings the visitors to join the honeybee group. And we have performed the locals' culture, traditional dance to the guests. So this is the border area, only separate by river. And elephants is easy to cross the river. They can swim. We have the elephants and mahout. So there is the elephant response unit. Okay, thank you. That's all from Waikambas National Park, and thank you for Asian Biodiversity and Conservation. And now my friends Diki from Medan will share about the program. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thank you very much. So let me introduce myself. So my name is Diki, like Tony already said. So actually I based in Jakarta. So I will tell a story about our project with ACB. And thank you also for the ACB and the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity and also ASEAN Ecotourism Network for having me and together with all delighted speakers. So our project is a small grant program, part of the ACB, ASEAN Conservation Biodiversity. So we have in Langkat Regency. So if you know, we have also in Indonesia 7 Asian Heritage Park. 2 among them is in Sumatra. So in Blitoni, in Waikambas, and the other one is in North Sumatra, spreading from Aceh to North Sumatra, the Gunung Loser National Park. So maybe operator, please play the video, the video first from the Gunung Loser National Park.
Taman Nasional Gunung Leuser, rumah perlindungan bagi 65% dari 129 spesies di Pulau Sumatera. Warisan hutan hujan tropis Sumatera ini berstatus internasional, Asian Heritage Park, cagar biosfer, dan situs warisan dunia UNESCO. Sebagai kawasan konservasi, Taman Nasional Gunung Leuser dikelilingi kawasan penyangga dengan potensi yang sangat kaya. Batu Katak, satu dari kawasan penyangga yang menjadi rumah bagi bunga terbesar dan tertinggi di dunia, Rafflesia arnoldi dan Amorphopalus titanum. Bagi penantang adrenalin, Batu Katak juga menjadi tempat bertualang. Gelapnya sungai bawah tanah dengan batuan stalaktit yang menggantung indah akan menjadi pemandangan selama menyusuri gua air sepanjang 997 meter. Suara gemercik air, desiran angin, dan kicauan burung menjadi irama selama di Batu Katak. Kini giliran derasnya jeram sungai yang siap memacu adrenalin. Tidak hanya penting bagi kehidupan flora dan fauna, hutan juga memberikan penghidupan bagi manusia. Masyarakat dapat memanfaatkan hasil hutan bukan kayu yang bernilai ekonomi sesuai dengan adat dan kearifan lokalnya. Panorama hutan hujan tropis Sumatera menyajikan lukisan alam yang menakjubkan. Air panas dari retakan bumi turut menciptakan jejak-jejak artistik di
This is
sepanjang
hot spring. We
alirannya.
have also natural hot spring.
Begitu pula dengan bebatuan di sepanjang sungainya.
The caving
Terdapat pula pohon
also.
raksasa yang tumbuh dengan lingkar batang bawah mencapai 47
This is the
meter.
big tree. So it's around 47 meters diameter.
Taman Nasional Gunung Leuser adalah satu-satunya tempat di dunia di mana 4 spesies karismatik, gajah, badak, harimau, dan primata paling cerdas orangutan hidup bersama di alam liar. Gajah memiliki peran penting dalam menjaga kelestarian hutan dan ekosistem Taman Nasional Gunung Leuser. Sebagai kawasan
We have
penyangga,
also 11
Tangkahan
in Gunung
menjadi
Leuser.
pusat pelestarian satwa gajah
Sumatera
Sumatera yang
11.
tingkat kelangkaannya menarik perhatian dunia. Disinilah edukasi dan interaksi dengan gajah menjadi atraksi bagi wisatawan.
Okay, so let me introduce a little bit about our project. So our project in North Sumatra, especially in Langkat Regency, is digitalization promotion for ecotourism in area region 3 in Gunung Leuser National Park. So as we know that I already mentioned before, they have 7 Asian Heritage Park, and 2 among them is in Sumatra. And one of them we do in the small grant program, through the small grant program with ACB. Of course, we have like 1 year program, 1 year project for digitalization, the ecotourism in area 3, especially in Batu Katak. And I want to talk with Batu Katak itself. So here in our place, in the village, in the Batu Katak, in Desa Batu Jongjong, we have like everyone see in the video, we have the big flowers in our village. So it's always bloom every month, ladies and gentlemen. So you don't need to worry. If you come to visit us in Leuser, you can see the flower almost every month, because we have a lot of spot of the flower when this bloom. And for your information also, the flower is bloom every 7 years. So after 7 years, it will only bloom for 2 or 3 days and then dies, and then we will see another for next 7 years. But because it's a lot of them, we can see almost every month. Yeah, that's the good one in Batu Katak. And also, beside that, so we have also like in the video, the elephant in Tangkahan, and then also we have also a white-handed gibbon, and we can also see the orangutan. The orangutan Sumatra, different maybe with Pak Ari. We have also in Kalimantan, but we have here in the Sumatra the smallest one, but length of hand is very wide. And then beside that, this village, I mean, why we took the project in the village is pasca pandemic. So when like now is already the pandemic is already gone. So the villages are already established. They now have the decree from the minister itself for the village tourism, and for the village decree given by the Ministry of Tourism of Indonesia at that time, in April, and also we succeed have the certification for CHSE, so it's for cleanliness, healthy, safety, and environment. That accreditation by the government also, and the bureau for the CHSE, SNI person. So it's already certified from the government and also acknowledged by the Ministry of Tourism. And one thing also, our village is among of the, we already get into the competition for the village, the tourism village in Indonesia, but we not pass the 300, so only until 300 from 4,000 more villagers. And maybe operator, please play the second video, the promotion one. We have another one. It's only a few minutes. Yes.
Taman Nasional Gunung Leuser adalah salah satu hutan konservasi yang dikelola oleh Unit Pelaksana Teknis Direktorat Jenderal KSDAE. 5 destinasi wisata utama untuk tujuan ekowisata di Taman Nasional, di buffer zone-nya Taman Nasional Gunung Leuser ada di 5 lokasi. Yang pertama Tangkahan, yang kedua Bukit Lawang, yang ketiga Batu Ronggring, yang keempat Simolap Marike, dan sekarang kita berada di Batu Katak.
It's our project title.
Batu Katak ini berada juga di antara 2 destinasi utama yang kita miliki, Tangkahan dan Bukit Lawang. Itu merupakan tantangan tersendiri sekaligus menjadi peluang bahwa kita akan linkkan satu paket sehingga apa-apa yang sudah dialami oleh masyarakat kita yang ada di Bukit Lawang dan di Tangkahan juga bisa dialami oleh masyarakat kita yang ada di Batu Katak ini.
Potensi ekowisata Batu Katak yaitu ada gua, bunga raplesia, dan bunga amorphophallus, dan banyak juga hewan-hewan yang dilindungi yang ada di wilayah ekowisata Batu Katak. Peluang pengembangan di wisata Batu Katak menjanjikan karena wisata alam yang sangat diminati oleh turis mancanegara ataupun lokal.
Ya, beberapa hari ini ketika saya lihat-lihat
this gentleman is one of our celebrity chef who conduct the training for the women in the village, because we have the program, the community-based tourism, and we cooperate with this guy, the celebrity chef in Indonesia, Chef Ragil.
Banyak bisa dibuat menjadi sebuah panganan.
So there's the training with the women and then what the who have a restaurant or cafe.
Era digitalisasi. Jadi wisatawan dapat mengakses informasi tentang Batu Katak melalui internet ataupun website.
Memudahkan kami untuk mengenalkan dan mempromosikan produk-produk herbal kami, herbal tradisional Karo.
We have also
proyek
local product.
Digitalisasi dan promosi
This is our
ekowisata
director.
serta penguatan kapasitas pelaku ekowisata di Taman Nasional Gunung Leuser, Kabupaten Langkat, Sumatera Utara ini diimplementasi oleh Desma Center. Kegiatan ini merupakan proyek pembangunan Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup dan Kehutanan Republik Indonesia bekerja sama dengan ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, dibiayai bersama oleh Republik Federal Jerman melalui KfW. Proyek ini dilaksanakan sejak Maret hingga Desember 2022. Proyek ini memfasilitasi serangkaian training dan coaching untuk pengelolaan usaha ekowisata berbasis masyarakat, serta memfasilitasi rangkaian implementasi sertifikasi CHSE kategori destinasi wisata, digital marketing, serta membantu memasarkan produk dan jasa ekowisata melalui business matching, farm trip, dan stakeholder networking.
Pengalaman kami yang sangat berkesan tentang kepemanduan, di mana kami setelah didampingi, kami semakin mengerti tentang kepemanduan, tentang menyapa tamu dan menjamu tamu.
Setelah mendapat pelatihan Service of Excellence, kami jadi lebih tahu bagaimana cara melayani tamu yang lebih baik dan berkomunikasi yang lebih baik lagi kepada tamu yang datang kepada kami.
Harapan kita bahwa seluruh elemen masyarakat yang terlibat dalam program digitalisasi ekowisata di Batu Katak ini mendapatkan manfaat yang terbaik dari program ini dan bisa dilakukan, dipraktekkan.
Berani untuk terus mencoba, walaupun mungkin nggak langsung laku, tapi paling enggak mereka berani mencoba. Dengan itu kita bisa membantu mereka untuk menjual di e-commerce supaya mereka juga bisa punya banyak pelanggan. Karena pada saat ini sebenarnya untuk berjualan tidak ada pasar, karena pasarnya udah terbuka luas sekali. Gimana caranya kita membuat produk saja yang bisa dijual ke e-commerce atau sosial media.
Semoga lebih maju lagi dan terutama di
Herbal
dalam komunitas
products,
kami dari Irsada.
it's
Semoga
like
produk-produk
ointment.
kami lebih dikenal lagi dan semakin banyak tamu yang akan
Organic
datang
ointment.
kepada kami.
Ya, wisatawan di Batu Katak semakin ramai dan meriah. Dan juga kami sebagai pengelola juga semakin maju.
This is the women.
Kami berharap para pelaku
Group.
usaha ekowisata berbasis masyarakat dapat bangkit pasca pandemi dan memberikan solusi atas tantangan akses pasar, menghubungkan daya tarik wisata, dan meningkatkan produk dan jasa wisata yang berkualitas di kawasan Taman Nasional Gunung Loser.
Okay, so just a little bit from our project in Batu Katak or in Area 3, but I would also like to introduce our partner, Paturnip. Please stand up, Paturnip. Okay, so Paturnip is behalf of the head of the Gunung Loser National Park. Yes, he already with us since yesterday also. So we're very grateful. Cooperation with the Gunung Loser Park also. So we hope that the ecotourism is, because this village is outside of the protected area, so they think tourism is the other alternative for the livelihood. And also, past the pandemic, this tourism sector can grow, and then the economic in the village also turn the economic in the village also, like the coming from the visitors, and then we do like the B2B meeting or B2B buyer to sellers promotion also. Maybe after we have quiz, yeah.
Still have quite time, Doctor, for the quiz.
May I have
Okay, 1 minute?
2 minutes maybe, yeah? Pak Kus, please stand up, Pak Kus, yeah.
And
Okay.
Pak Ari, please,
Yeah.
for the quiz, Pak.
For the quiz, okay. Maybe first question from Gunung Loser National Park. Before maybe everyone already see the video, I want to ask someone, and who will answer will get the prize, yeah, from me, of course, from the Gunung Loser National Park. Do you know what is the title of the project of our program in Loser? Okay, yes. Your name, please.
My name is Drul Amri Komarudin and I'm from Indonesia. The project title is Digitalization for Ecotourism Pasca COVID Pandemic.
Kasih satu, Bang.
Okay, it's okay. One.
Okay, so now from Waikambas National Park and not for Indonesian.
Yeah.
So other country, okay? Are you ready? And what is the name of the island where Waikambas National Park located? Yes, please, sir.
Yes.
Sumatra. What you, ma'am? Sumatra. Two of you.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Is there any question, Tony? Is there any question? Any question?
And name and where are you from, sir?
Come here, ma'am.
I'm Angelo from the National Commission for Culture and the Arts in the Philippines, from the Philippines.
I'm Alma Tuyukan from Mountain Province, Cordillera Region.
Thank you very much.
Is there any question, Pak Kus? Maybe?
Thank you so much.
Okay. Excuse me, Pak. It's already answered? Okay. My question. So maybe you know the Waikambas National Park is also national park. Besides that, we also as ASEAN Heritage Park. So ASEAN Heritage Park in Indonesia, before that only before that. So Waikambas become before that only only Okay, please raise your hand and come. Okay, please. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. No. Behind. Yeah. Please. Yeah. Come. ASEAN Heritage Park in Indonesia. Before we join as an ASEAN Heritage Park, only.
How many national parks?
No. Only 3. Only. Can you mention which? No. Okay. I will show you. Okay. In only 3 before Waikambas. That's Gunung Loser, Kerinci Seblat National Park, and also in Papua, Lawrence. Okay, I will give you. Okay, please stay here. Okay, so it's mean after that, Waikambas National Park become ASEAN Heritage Park number 4. Please raise your hand.
Bagus.
Okay. Yes, please coming. Okay, please coming. Number
4.
Number 4. Yes, correct. Okay.
Your name? Joy Ortega from La Union.
Okay, this one. Okay. I will give you one more special thing. This from.
Oh, special.
If you can answer, so the total ASEAN Heritage Park in Indonesia.
This is the special coffee.
Yeah. The total ASEAN Heritage Park in Indonesia.
How much? How many?
If you can answer.
If you can answer.
I will give you this one as well.
No.
Yes, 7. Yeah, you are right. Thank you.
Masih ada satu.
Okay, you answer also, sir. Please come. No problem. Come.
What's your name? I'm from
Dante Oporto from Mindanao.
Oh, Mindanao.
Wow, all the Filipinos. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Oh, no question. No question asked, just a gift.
Here. Sir, take a picture first. Take picture.
That's an award for always smiling.
Yeah. This one, Langkat also, yeah. Lestari.
8. Licun. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much for ACB for the present.
Ya.
All right. Isn't it an exciting session, right? All wake up now? Okay, thank you. So I don't need to use my time to wrap up for this session, but you see the power of incentives. You see? Huh? And a gentleman in the front, he told me during lunchtime, he said, I asked her, will you come in? Because yes, because of you, that's me, and because of the cookies. You see the power of, I guarantee you, tomorrow, more lucky draw. All right? You guys coming, huh? All right, so for my session, I have a very challenging moderator. I have 5 presenters. I have the last presenter, okay? Last but not least, sorry, my paper over there, is it? Hang on. It's Miss Chen Mencius. If I pronounce it wrong, please correct me. She is a tourism planning consultant who authorizes survey planning tools that have been designed to help clients and community partners come up with sustainable tourism plans that are pragmatic and implementable. And Ms. Chen advocates responsible travel and supports community-based initiatives. She believes that inclusive growth can truly occur when marginalized sectors of tourism destination is taken on board as active participant in the growth of local tourism industry, okay? And she got a graduate from Asian Institute of Tourism, College of Environment Studies, UP School Urban and Planning, Regional Planning. So please welcome Chen, Ms. Garcias. Okay, thank you.
There you go. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wong, for that introduction. Thank you. My topic is rather huge because it cannot be compressed in 20 minutes. So I will have to ask you to pay attention. Don't go to the bathroom because I'm going to go through it rather faster than I should. So you can ask the right questions later on, right? So I'll be talking in the context of Philippine development, all right? So I'm going to have to ask you first one question. I will flash a statement, and please raise your hand if you agree with this statement. It's not showing? It's not moving. Murphy's Law in action. Kailangan ba yung clicker? There. It's coming. There. All right. If you agree with this statement that tourism is the engine of growth, can you raise your right hand? Higher? Majority of you, if not all of you, agree with this statement, right? Here in the Philippines, we always hear this statement from our national government, including local governments, right? So we believe that tourism will actually address poverty in many of the rural areas. However, as I engage with local communities, I have made one important observation, that often growth is equated with economic development. Do you believe this statement? That growth is often, if not all the time, equated merely with economic development. For the Filipinos who are familiar with the closure of Boracay, what about the foreigners? Are you familiar with the destination, famous destination Boracay that was closed in, when was that closed? 2018, right? 2018. It was a wake-up call for all of us because we realized that it's getting loose. It's a bit loose. Right. Hold on. There. I'll try it again. All right. Not going to move it. Okay. So in 2018, when Boracay was closed for tourism, that was even not the pandemic yet. Medyo maluwag. Right. We realized that tourism can also be an engine of destruction. Now, this picture is not in Marawi, where we had a siege a couple of years ago, but it looks like a war zone. This is in El Nido, a fairly new destination that started only becoming popular in the last maybe 10 years, not even 20 or 30 years. And yet, it mushroomed very fast because of access, improved access. And how come it became like a war zone? Because after the closure of Boracay, what happened was that they were given instructions that they will be closed as well, just like Boracay. And so what happened was that the private sector decided to do self-demolition of the structures that were located at the easement. Because here in the Philippines, we have a water code, a national law, that prohibits construction of any permanent structure along easements, meaning public domain, which is in urban area, it's only 3 meters from the highest water line. And in agricultural areas, it's 20 meters. And in forest areas, only 40 meters. Yeah. Sige. Kailangan ko ng flash. We're going to transfer it to their laptop so we can show it. All right. So, Boracay, who among you have been to Boracay? Mostly Filipinos. What about foreigners? Any foreigners who've been to Boracay? No, not yet. Okay, it's one of the most popular destinations in the country. Unfortunately, it's also one of those that don't have any master plan. Okay. Just like destinations similar to that would be Panglao in Bohol. Filipinos would be familiar with that. And we also have Coron in Palawan, Puerto Galera in Mindoro, of course Baguio. So all these places developed way ahead the new ones that are being discovered right now. So there are quite a few problems with these destinations because tourism simply happened to them. What does it mean? Tourism simply happening to a place is that it's all about market forces. When you say it's all about market forces, it's just demand and supply. And sometimes the supply loses. So I will show you later on. Okay na? Alright. Ano to ito? I-check ko? What do you mean the transfer? Okay. I'm just going to transfer the file. Excuse me. Dr. Wong, my time is not running, right? Okay. All right. Okay, so let's just wait. So in my talk, I'm going to talk about the big picture first, tourism in general, and then zero in on the indicators connected or related to ecotourism. All right, for us to understand, because ecotourism is one type of sustainable tourism, but we have to look at the entire industry so we can understand where ecotourism fits in as far as implementation in the local government. So again, I'm talking about Philippine context. All right, so we've finished this. This is the slide where I stopped. So tourism can also be an engine of destruction. Now, some of these businesses have loans in the bank. They have, they're in debt. Some of them have just started the business, and yet they had to demolish their buildings because they have violated a national law. So that's what happened, right? So over the years in the Philippines, we have created destinations that actually were destroying the very resource that's giving them income. So we've been creating tourism that destroys by not having the necessary mechanisms by which we make sure that we don't put garbage in the sea, in the oceans, or in the river systems, or pollute with liquid waste. And we also created tourism that disrespects life. Now, many of you would admit that you've been to some destinations that would sell wildlife as souvenirs. And again, over the years, we have been creating tourism that is irresponsible. I always saying that responsible behavior of tourists has nothing to do with financial status or education. Anybody can be irresponsible when they go to a tourism site, including ecotourism destinations. And we have also been creating tourism that depletes resources. I have seen too many times areas that claim to have thriving tourism, but they have problems with water. They don't have any fresh water anymore. And whatever water is left in their aquifer have coliform bacteria. So this is like a pattern that I'm trying to piece together, because the more I engage with destinations that have gone ahead with tourism development and not having a plan at all, it seems that all these problems are related to the fact that they don't have any roadmap. So again, looking at the community, I realized also that many of these destinations that, you know, where tourism simply happened to them, have people who are marginalized. And often, the only people who would get financial benefit would be investors, or people that has the capital to invest in hotels, in businesses, in enterprises, but the poorest sector of the community are left behind. And of course, greed will come into the picture, because sometimes greed can blind people. And exactly what happened to Boracay, you can compare those two pictures of Boracay before, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, to how it is during the closure in 2018. And sad to say that the zoning of the island is a timberland. It's not even A&D. And yet, you know, structures were allowed to be built on such a small strip of island. So the reason why, based on my analysis over the years, is that we have one misconception. And I don't know if it applies in your country, but here it seems that we have this misconception that the more tourists there are, the better. So to me, I have been speaking about this problem for many years, and yet, until 2019, this was validated when the World Economic Forum came up with a report, which comes out every 2 years, by the way, and declared that globally, we have a problem on over-tourism. And globally, tourism has reached a tipping point. And when we say tipping point, it's a point of no return. Usually, the term tipping point is associated with climate change impacts, right? But now, it's being associated with tourism on a global scale. So before the closure of 2020, because of the pandemic, we have reached 8.2 million tourists, foreign tourists. We exceeded the target in the Philippines, and we were very ecstatic about it. But then again, there were signs in many of these popular destinations that we were again just aiming for the numbers, but not aiming for sustainability. And so over-tourism is associated with congestion, overcrowding, poor tourism management, and environmental destruction. So here in the Philippines, we measure our industry using two indicators. I don't know how it is in your country, but here we're using tourist arrivals and tourist receipts, both economic indicators. We also use satellite accounts, but satellite accounts, which include investment, employment, contribution to GDP, are all economic indicators, and they are not that significant as far as the local government is concerned. It's for national assessment. We often forget, though, that people have impacts on a daily basis. You might agree with that, right? From the time you wake up in the morning until you close your eyes, you have footprint on this earth. With the decisions that you make, the products that you buy, how long you travel from one point to another, you create an impact. And so we're familiar, even with travel, with regards to travel footprint. When you decide to make a booking and you travel from your origin using your car, getting on a plane or riding a boat or a combination thereof, and then the food that you eat, your choices in terms of, you know, where you go, what kind of activities you engage in, and water that you consume for drinking, for bathing, and the sewage that you produce, the garbage that you leave behind, all of these things leave an impact to the destination that you traveled to, including ecotourism sites, of course. And so it wasn't a surprise that before the pandemic, there were many red flags in many destinations in the Philippines. And I wasn't surprised. There were issues on food security, uh, um, too much trash in an ASEAN Heritage Park, which is Mount Apo in Mindanao, and pollution in El Nido and Panglao. There were so many red flags already before the closure of the pandemic. However, we forget that there's more than one dimension in the industry. There's actually 6 dimensions. Used to be 4, used to be 3, the triple bottom line, remember, and then it became a quadruple bottom line, but now we're using 5 dimensions. And I'm talking about this because this is a project that we have started before the pandemic but was paused because of the closure, but now we're resuming it. And so I'm excited to share with you that we're finding a solution to this problem of not knowing where we are at any point in time, not knowing where the industry is even now, up to this point. So we have 6 dimensions. We have the environment, social aspect, the health. Health used to be in social dimension, but we took it out because of the pandemic. And then, of course, economic dimension, institution or management, and physical development. Now, to be able to get the real picture, we have to determine what is called Tourism Development Capacity Index. It's a combination of these different indicators, and not just looking at the economic prosperity of a place, but taking into consideration other indicators. It's a tool for destination management. Now, to be able to select the indicators for each of the dimension, we have to start with a definition. Now, I know that there are several definitions of ecotourism, but for the purpose of my presentation, I'm using the official definition of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, because it's the only definition that is supported by a government issuance, which is Department Administrative Order 2013-19, all right? It says here, it's a form of sustainable tourism within a natural and cultural heritage area where community participation, protection and management of natural resources, culture and indigenous knowledge and practices, environmental education and ethics, as well as economic benefits are fostered and pursued for the enrichment of host community and satisfaction of visitors. It's quite long. However, I put in red keywords which represents the different components of ecotourism as far as the Philippines is concerned. Right, so these are the components: natural and cultural heritage, etc., including satisfaction of visitors. Now, if you put all these keywords and phrases in the matrix or in the table, you will have these, right? You'll have under environment, the integrity of the natural and cultural heritage. So doing this, it will be easy now to determine what will tell you that the integrity of the natural and cultural environment is preserved despite tourism, right? And in the social dimension, you have well-being of the community or enrichment, participation, stewardship, visitor satisfaction, ethics, cultural and indigenous knowledge and practices, environmental education, all right? And I think some of these topics were discussed since yesterday. And under economic, you have benefits, revenue, and revenue comes in different forms. If it's a protected area, then it's an integrated protected area fund or IPAF. You have conservation fees, you have entrance fees, you have different kinds of fees. And then boiling down to, or rather leading to, sustainable financing. So under institutional management, you have different mechanisms by which you can make sure that the other indicators would also be implemented through, or rather institutionalized. So you have natural resource management, carrying capacity limits, ethics, rules and regulations, partnership. And then I also included certain elements that also need to be in place. Coming from a bigger planning context, we need to have a plan. Ecotourism sites need to have a plan, a roadmap, right? And many of our ecotourism sites here do not have a plan. So you need to have a plan. Why? because some of you are working for the local government, right? Or even national government. So you are familiar with this, that any programs, projects, and activities of any initiative that you want to do, including ecotourism, will not be allotted any budget unless it is mainstreamed in your CLUP or Comprehensive Land Use Plan or Comprehensive Development Plan, which becomes the basis for your annual investment program. So it's useless to be thinking about an ecotourism project unless it is embedded in the CDP or the local development plans, right? So for protected areas, it's the same because all protected areas in the Philippines have management plans. So it needs to be part of the strategy specifically indicated in the plan document so that the DNR will include it in their work financial program, right? And then you have zoning and monitoring. And for health, there's sanitation and then standards with regards to food preparation, production, cleanliness and site maintenance. And then for physical development, you have resilient infrastructure. Again, like I said, this topic is too big for 20 minutes because resilient infrastructure alone is a whole lecture. It could be a 2-hour lecture. So there's climate change adaptation, there's good and appropriate design, green infrastructure, including smart tourism. Because of the pandemic, you notice that we're switching now to automation, to non-contact payments, to digitalization, to online bookings. So I think it's high time that ecotourism sites also implement these mechanisms by which we make it safer and more efficient for ecotourism sites. So if we make it even more precise in terms of indicators, this is how it's going to be. So how do you know that the natural and cultural environment is preserved? You have water quality, waste management, both solid and liquid waste, biodiversity, climate change adaptation, ecological carrying capacity, etc., etc., etc. I don't have the time to discuss each of the indicator, but what I'm going to do is to give you examples. So you have to appreciate that it is not enough for us to measure a local tourism industry or even the status of a tourism in or a local tourism industry in an ecotourism site merely by economic indicators, right? So let me give you an example with regards to natural and cultural environment, right? I mentioned water quality, so there has to be regular testing of water, especially if you're located in the coastal area and you have a marine protected area or a lake that's declared as a protected area. You need to test the water quality every now and then. And then waste management. Now, as far as waste management, we already have the strategy called circular economy. If you're familiar with that, it's actually prolonging the life of any non-biodegradable waste so that you waste, for example, a plastic packaging material may be treated as a commodity to be produced into another product. So instead of immediately throwing it away after one use, you turn it into something else. That's called circular economy. So I think that strategies should be embedded as well in plans of ecotourism site. And of course, climate change adaptation and remediation measures. For the well-being of community, what we do is to introduce the concept of wealth generation, right? We don't anymore use poverty alleviation as a concept, but rather use wealth generation. What is that? Under this concept, it says that anybody, not just people in the community, but all of us will have financial stability if we have at least 4 financial assets. Number 1 is emergency fund, especially in a country like the Philippines that gets a lot of natural calamities, especially during the rainy season, volcanic eruptions, typhoons, we have earthquakes, all these calamities. We need to have emergency funds. Second is cash reserves in times that we don't have work, like during the pandemic, and then protection in the form of insurance, and then retirement, right? So these are indicators. So if your ecotourism sites, if the people involved in your ecotourism project already have this, and it's increasing over time, it's a good indicator that ecotourism is helping well-being of the community. When it comes to revenue and income, again, it's different forms. You can have conservation fee, tax or entrance fee for local governments, income for local service providers, profit for enterprises, as well as fund for people's organizations. So these are the different ways by which an ecotourism site can produce or generate income, right? So when it comes to ecotourism plan, Dow 2013-19, the same issuance that defined ecotourism in the Philippines, mandates protected areas to have two documents. Number one is an ecotourism management plan, and second is an ecotourism business plan, right? So we have been engaged in doing that for a few or for some protected areas, including all the protected areas in the province of Aurora. So these are actually real documents. I mentioned that if ecotourism is not even in the protected area management plan, it will not be pursued. It has to be there. So every time this document is updated, and if you want ecotourism to be part of the strategy in protecting your forest, your mangroves, and all other natural attributes of a site, then it has to be there, right? So that DNR will put a budget for that. And you have also tourism master plans of local government. If you want ecotourism, put it there. It has to be included there, so that budget can be allotted, especially if it's already embedded in your comprehensive development plan. And when you have a plan, it's easy to have a budget, and then you can also invite partners for the implementation of the project, in which case they can also provide counterpart funding. But if you don't have a plan, it's difficult to defend your local chief executive and your budget officer to have budget for your project. Right. Again, I'm talking about Philippine context because there are several people from local government here. When it comes to health, we're talking about sanitation as well as standard health protocols because of the pandemic and safety measures and protocols. I will not go deeper into this because we don't have that much time. But lastly, resilient infrastructure, right? It's about infrastructure being functional, not an eyesore. Okay? It's about infrastructure that is sturdy and durable despite typhoon. It's still standing. It's still giving you the function that it's supposed to provide. It's about integrating climate change adaptation designs and measures and promoting conservation of resources. I don't know if you're familiar with the strategies on resilient infrastructure like water-saving toilets, diba? Toilets that don't use too much water, or maybe green roof or green walls to keep the temperature regulated inside structures, or waste management, wastewater management. Now, many of the LGUs always tell me we don't have money for sewage treatment facilities. That's very expensive, including businesses or hotels. They don't have the money for that. But if you're a small ecotourism site, you can use very low technology, which doesn't cost that much. You can use plants, you can use bioremediation to be able to deal with wastewater. There are ways of doing that. And then, of course, water conservation measures, as well as using new materials derived from that concept of circular economy. You notice this table, as well as the picture on the left. These are made of recycled plastics, right? So the one on the left, you may have contributed in making this material. It's actually like a plyboard made of mylar material. Mylar is the foil material used for disposable, what do you call it, 3-in-1 coffee, or those shampoo sachet. These are made into another material. So now trash is now a commodity which is very expensive, right? So there's money in selling trash. So if you have these features in your ecotourism projects, then you have what we call in Tagalog pogi points, or rather additional points, because you are now conscious of the fact that you have to contribute to the solution of having too much waste in this planet. All right, so This project is part of the development of a tool called Tourism Development Capacity Index. Okay, it's a management tool that will measure the state of a local tourism industry or even a small ecotourism sites. It takes into consideration the 6 dimensions I discussed, and it measures selected indicators for each dimension and provides composite analysis that will help decision makers, including our local chief executive, come up with solutions that are targeted. Because if tourism officers will tell your mayor that, Mayor, we have increased income, but we have increased garbage. Oh, okay, that's the price that we are paying for increased income. So we will now come up with solutions to make sure that we recycle our waste or we sell it to a company that recycles it. All right? So it provides composite analysis and dimensional analysis, and it could be a basis for informed decisions by our local chief executives. So we are in the process of doing research of selecting the criteria, and this will be the selection criteria. No? One is availability of the indicator. Second is measurability. It has to be measured. Third is suitability for the dimension that is being measured, as well as comparability over time. All right. So I'd like to end by saying that determining the state of a destination is not easy, but it is something that needs to be done, and to make sure that we create destinations or ecotourism destinations that will last for many generations. Folks, if we don't know where we need to go, we won't know where we need to go if we don't know where we are. And having a measure, not just for ecotourism sites, but destinations in general, would be very good for everyone, because we will have destinations that will not only last for 10 years, 15 years, but for many, 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 many years. So, thank you.
Ms. Chen, I apologize for this technical issue on behalf of our organizer. So let's give her another round of applause. Excellent, thank you. Okay, I just summarized her presentation. Actually, let's have a very deep thinking about whether tourism actually is an engine of destruction or growth, right? We have to think more deep. And her title for presentation is about monitoring and measuring. It's very difficult. As an academic, I also understand what this means important to us. And then she gave us a lot of indicators in the context of environment, social, environmental, and institutional context with all this integrated. I think it's very useful for us to pay attention to this. And last and not the least, she provided us another tool called Tourism Development Capacity Index, TDCI, if I'm correct, right? So again, it's a very useful tool for us to monitor whether tourism bring us positive impact, negative impact, all these things. But I just want to add a little bit, because I'm a green destination trainer, auditor, a GSTC trainer before, AEM board member, and we develop our own criteria in index. And in all these green destination, GST and AEM, if you can combine it, will be very perfect to help us understand better. All right? To that, I would like to end my moderation for this session for more than 4 hours. I'm sorry that, and we have some technical issues, but overall, I'm catching up with our time, only about 10 minutes left behind. I'm sorry I have to cut the Q&A section. So I left the time for our next moderator have an easy time. Thank you very much, and looking forward you guys to come tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. You still have a lot of energy. You can continue even beyond 4 hours. Okay, before we go for coffee break, we'll have at least one speaker. That will be for our next session, where we are going to talk about technology marketing and promotion for ecotourism. Again, we're looking at the best practices for this. So our moderator for this is Miss Chichi Ai. She is currently Senior Advisor and Tourism Consultant at the Myanmar Tourism Federation. She has extensive experience and leading a consulting team and coordinating within the Myanmar government, private sector organizations, and various development partners. She has a strong network also with various stakeholders, especially the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism. She has worked as a freelance consultant in different regions of the country and leading a range of projects. So she has wide range of experience and connection in Myanmar legislature structure, the laws, rules, and regulations related to tourism, business, cultural heritage, conservation and preservation of wildlife, rural development, climate change, and SME development. So for those of you who are doing consulting work in Myanmar, if you have difficulty accessing to data information, contact her. I know how difficult it is to get some information in Myanmar government agencies. So you have a network with her, and she can move things around. Okay, so without much further ado, I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Chichi Ai.
One thing is, before I greet you, Joe, thank you very much. You know what I left out? Where I was educated, and when I was educated, and when I was born also. And that is a big secret. Because if I tell you, then I'm concealing my own age, and says, okay, Tochiche, you should not continue anymore. Take care of your health. But I think my heart is still ticking, right? And I'm still very much excited by Dr. Meena. You know, Dr. Meena is a model for me. I met her online, and I'm really, really excited to meet her in person. And so, my first greeting is Mabuhay. Thank you very much. And the next is in Myanmar. Would you repeat that? Mingalaba. Mingalaba, Mingalaba, Mingalaba. And it means auspiciousness. It means that we can use Mingalaba just like Mabuhay any time of the day. And it will bring a lot of wealth to you, happiness to you, and contentment. Thank you very much, and we have resonated the greetings. So all my brothers and sisters, young, not old, matured, okay? So as I was saying about that, the excitement started with the start of the journey to IETM 2023. I flew in from Yangon, and the stopover was at Bangkok, as everybody has done. I'm trying to wake you all up in case you need to have coffee. Just hold on for a while, because the speakers are anxious also, very much excited to share their experience. And the session itself is on technology, marketing, and promotion. And it's not a separate, you know, a new thing that comes up. The session 5 itself was a very good merge into this session, and I like the panel discussion part and the one before that, which linked up to this marketing, digitalization, and technology and e-commerce. So marketing and promotion, and we will be using, of course, technology in it, and it will be approached in different perspectives by the different speakers because of their resource agenda that they have all those years. So I'm wondering, because if Dr. Lim is with us, because I've been looking left and right, and If Dr. Lim is not here, we can have him later on, after the coffee break, of course. So can I, without further ado, may I invite Rod Hillman, but before he is ready, you know, to stand up, very energetically dynamic and very vibrant, just like Alan, you know, yeah, ready to go. So let me say a few words. His is very short, you know, but you can see that he has so much to say to you. So Rod operates a tourism consultancy. I'm sure you've met him before, and it's called Rod Hillman and Associates, focusing on providing management services to tourism businesses and sustainable and ecotourism consulting. So a great man. So currently what he's doing is he is managing Beluga Expeditions, which is based from Port Douglas in Queensland. And those who have been to Australia would know the different parts of Australia. And he's an expert tourism panelist with the Asian Development Bank, ADB, and an auditor with GeoGolf. Before starting his consultancy, he was the CEO of Ecotourism Australia, a non-government, not-for-profit organization, which was established in 1991. Okay? So that provides and supports the ecotourism industry in Australia through building capacity and actively promoting sustainable tourism operations and systems. So prior to being a CEO, he served on the board for 9 years. Rod also has very extensive experience as a manager of national parks. So his experience sharing would cover national parks, a tourism owner and operator, and CEO of government statutory organization. So he's very much linked to the understanding of government statutory organizations. So highlights of his career include being a CEO of Kokoda Track Authority, PNG, and developing Australia's first destination certification program, ECO destination, Eco Destination, managing the post-bushfire redevelopment of Tinbinbilla Nature Reserve, ACT. Oh, I like that ACT part because I was in Canberra and very young, and ACT means a lot. And being an owner, operator of a safari company in Kenya. So, Dr. Rod, without further ado, may I hand over the floor to you to take ownership and have everybody.
Thank you. Just from the technical, I think you'll need to, oh, you've done it. I acknowledge that I'm standing between you and a coffee break, so I promise I'll be as quick as I can on that. But if you're like me, you're feeling tired, so I ask you to stand up, please. Now, I'd like to see you imitate an animal. I like jellyfish, so I'm going to shake like a jellyfish. I like the jellyfish out there. Thank you very much. You can be any animal you want. Down you go. I want to talk a little bit about Australia and ecotourism and the marketing and promotion in Australia. But first of all, Australia is part of Asia. So we are Asians too. Geographically, we're part of Australia. 30% of Australians weren't born there. 20% of Australians have an Asian cultural heritage. They identify as Asian people. Before the British, the people who look like me came to Australia, you had the Australian Aboriginal people there for 60,000 years. But the first recorded people to go and live in Australia were Indonesians. They were the Macassans that went down there and traded for sea cucumber, and they created villages and they lived in the northern part of Australia. So it was Asian people who first settled Australia. We're involved in many, like the ASEANs and all the security pacts and the economic pacts and things like that. So I just wanted to start by saying Australia is part of Asia. just a little bit about government, so I can explain that so we can understand how our tourism marketing promotion works on that. So we have a national government which looks after all Australia. So it really looks after the national issues, defence and foreign aid and these type of things. But we also have states and territories, so Queensland, New South Wales, these are all state governments. So when the British came to Australia on that, it started with states on that. So New South Wales was the first state, and then we had Queensland. And it wasn't until 1900 that the states came together and said, let's form a nation on that. So it's a federation. So it's actually the state governments that are in charge of Australia, not the national government. And we have territories as well. So you can see Northern Territory there. So that's controlled to a large degree by the national government. You can see we are so creative with our names. We have Western Australia in the west. We have South Australia in the south. We have Northern Territory in the north. We need to get a little bit more creative in our naming. No. But we also have local governments, hundreds of local governments who look after local facilities. So from a tourism marketing point of view, on that, the national government runs a thing called Tourism Australia. So its job is to tell people to come to Australia. They don't care where in Australia you go, just come to Australia. Then you have the states and the territories saying, okay, Tourism Australia has told you to come to Australia, but our state is the best. So I live in Queensland, so we have a Queensland tourism organisation that we want you to come to Queensland. We then have local governments on that says, right, you've come to Queensland, but Gold Coast is the best, or Toowoomba is the best. We also have trade associations. So tour operators in a particular area will get together and put money together to create their own campaigns on that. But we also have other tourism industry bodies which really focus on advocacy on that and the product development, because the tourism organisations focus on promotion, but it's no one's job to do product development, which is a real gap in the Australian tourism industry. So Australia promotes itself, like every ad that you see for Australia will have a picture like that. It'll be about our nature on that. Increasingly culture as well, because the research shows that tourists coming to Australia want to have a genuine and authentic experience with an Australian. They want to meet Australians on that. So we now advertise about our friendly nature on that and teach you to say g'day and these type of things on that. Food and wine has been a big push in the last 10 years on that, because it's a way of pushing people for regional diversity on that. So you'll go to this place because it's the best place to get this seafood. You go to this place because it's the only place you can get this type of food. Also with the wine, we're big drinkers in Australia on that, and we like everyone to drink lots on that. So we grow wine pretty much everywhere and brew beer just about everywhere on that. But everyone has different wine and different food on that. But also we're advertising our personality on that. Like I work a lot in destination management, and I think this idea of a personality is really important. So if you think of where you live, if you could describe that as a person, what was the personality of that place? And to me, that's the core of destination management, is to define what that personality is on that and build those emphasis on that. So you think of, so like where I live in Australia, we have a place called Gold Coast. You might think of that. It's tall buildings and nightclubs and discos and all this. So when I think of Gold Coast, I think of this brash teenager that's here to cause trouble and have a good time on that. So that's the way I think of that. But where I live, it's a little bit more relaxed, and I think of that as a wise old man. A new thing that we've started moving forward is focusing on the LGBTQIA+ community. So basically, the pink economy. We just hosted the World Gay Pride event. It was held in Sydney at the beginning of this year on that. So it's just a big part of, we see this as an emerging market, and we do a lot of activities to encourage that market to come to Australia. So about 4 years ago, things were going fantastic. Really, really well. Numbers were going up, yield was going up, all these new programs were coming along, and then the world kind of changed on that. The first major shock that we had is like Australia is a country where we are used to bushfires, we're used to floods, we're used to everything that nature can throw at us on that. It's a tough place to live on that. But in 2019, we had something that was, even for us, extreme. We had a series of bushfires that covered thousands of miles. So this is a result of this El Nino combination. So we had about 5 years of droughts, and then in 2019, we had these bushfires, which are absolutely devastating. And it was from South Queensland all the way around the coast, around to South Australia. And they went for months. And we were on the national news everywhere, and other countries were ringing us up saying, is your whole country on fire? Wasn't quite the whole country, but it was massive. Like, this was a really big deal. These were the biggest fires in our recorded history on that. But also our largest supply of visitors to Australia was China. There was a bit of politics going on. China stopped buying our coal. They stopped buying our wine. They stopped buying a whole lot of things, and they stopped sending tourists. So we went from well over 1 million tourists a year to none. So we lost our biggest market. So the bushfires weren't enough for us on that. So 2 years later, we had the biggest floods we've ever had in the history of Australia. Like, in all records were broken. We thought we must have angered some god somewhere on that. Because that map there shows the dark blue is the highest recorded rainfall in the history of Australia. The blue areas there are pretty close to the highest recorded rainfall we've ever had. So we had major cities flooded, not once, not twice, but 3 or 4 times. So the floods would come through, wipe a place out. They'd pull everything out of your houses, and then 3 weeks later it would happen again. And then a month after that it would happen again. Like where I lived, 500 houses went underwater, just in my small community. Big cities like Lismore, completely underwater. The rivers rose in the cities by over 20 metres. So whole cities just disappeared. So now we have to work out, do we rebuild in these places, or do we move the cities? We've got lots of homeless. We lost so many houses that there's people with no place to live. They're living in cars. Like, it's very, very significant, these things. And then, or during, while this is all going on, we had that little thing called COVID on that. We were impacted COVID the same as you were. It was a big deal, but we were one of the first countries to shut down, and we were pretty close to the last country to open up. So we had no international visitors for 2 years. Not only did we have no international visitors coming in, we couldn't leave. They closed the border so Australians could not leave the country. My next door neighbour, his mother was in England, very, very sick, so he had to go and see her. The government would not let him leave the country to go and visit her. He just had to leave her there. People were dying. It was just a bad time, same as you, same as everywhere. But we had the longest lockdowns where you weren't allowed to leave your house on that. And this went on for over a year, like in Melbourne and places like that. You couldn't leave your house, or they would let you go within 5 kilometres sometimes on that. So all tourism stopped. I was managing Ecotourism Australia at the time, membership. I did a survey of all our members. Not a single business was still in operation. Every single tourism business that was a member of us closed on that. So our world stopped. But there's always a silver lining, and as the great people say, never waste a crisis. There is always opportunity within a crisis on that. So when it did open up and we'd had this time to think, we'd been locked inside our houses on that. We'd seen a change. We'd changed the way we think a little bit. And this is not just Australia, this is around the world. I think everyone had this experience. So we started reprioritising what was important to us, what was important to our families on that. So we opened domestically first. So all of a sudden we had domestic tourism. But what we noticed was that the tourism behaviour was very different on that. So first of all, people were scared. They didn't want to go far from home because the governments had this habit of opening, then closing, opening, then closing. And people were getting caught in another state. So if they go on holidays from Sydney up to Brisbane, and then the Queensland government says, shut the borders again, they're stuck on the other side. And they couldn't get home for weeks, sometimes months on that. So people would only travel about 50 kilometres on that. They didn't want to go in big groups. They didn't want to go to big events. They didn't want to go to big hotels. They didn't want to go to crowded places on that. They wanted to go to quiet places. They wanted to go to nature. They wanted to have an opportunity to reconnect to nature, to their families, to their people. But also the bushfire and the flood recovery had changed to a large degree what we thought about ourselves on that. It was this terrible things have happened, let's build back better. So a lot of emphasis was on rebuilding our society and rebuilding our infrastructure. But also, the last speaker talked about over-tourism. We had some over-tourism sites, and the communities got to see what it looked like without the tourism, without the over-tourism. And they were very clear that they didn't want to go back to that. They wanted to stay away from that. So they've changed their behaviour as well, so the destination character. So the tourism industry had to develop new product. So we had to create new products. So no longer these big events. So going to the football with 100,000 people and these type of things just didn't happen. People weren't interested in that. But it was a real benefit for ecotourism because ecotourism had exactly the product that people were looking for on that. They have this nature experience where they could connect, not just to nature, but to themselves, to their family and friends in small groups. They wanted to feel safe. They wanted this reassurance on that. So from a tourism point of view, the national government, this Tourism Australia, realised this change. So they changed as well. All of a sudden, like I've been I know I look like a very young man, but I've been around for a long time and in this game for a long time. And it was just talking to yourself a lot when you talk to Tourism Australia and these others. When you talk about sustainability, it's yeah, go away, we want to do this. No. But after this, after the COVID and after the bushfires, all of a sudden this was really, really important to them. So now Tourism Australia has a commitment to sustainable tourism. They have their principles written down there. They've got grant programs to increase sustainability. They've partnered with Ecotourism Australia on that. So it's been a fundamental shift in how Australia promotes itself, how it develops its marketing, how it develops its products. There's good and bad with everything on that. So when the international borders opened, which was only a year ago, it seems like a lifetime ago, but it was only a year ago. We fitted the criteria of what this new tourist wanted really, really well. We got lots of nature. We got lots of space. Like, we're big and not a lot of people on that. So, but we're pretty safe. We've got good facilities. Like, if you get sick, there's a hospital, there's doctors, there's these things. We haven't had a war in the country ever. So it's a safe destination. Great opportunities to connect to, the people. Australians generally want to meet new people and happy to have a conversation on that. But what really started coming out was this genuine and authentic on that. So what people were looking for is they wanted to do things that they could trust. So they knew that this was real on that. And we got a lot of that. And I'll go on quickly to some of those programs. But we're a long way from anywhere. Like, this is a really short flight for me to come to the Philippines. Like, normally they're much bigger. It was only 8 hours to get here, the flight I did from... And I live in the north of Australia. So if I'd come from Melbourne or one of those other places, it would have been 10 or 11 hours on that. So for tourists to come to Australia from Europe, like, it's the whole day to fly there. People didn't want to sit in an aeroplane, a really compact space, for hours and hours and hours. So it was a negative for us. We had to work out, how do you turn that negative into a positive? So everyone got stuck in on that. How do we attract this new tourist? How do we do that? So the tourism organisations were very quick to promote. So they developed marketing strategies, marketing campaigns. They got into market really, really quickly on that. And it was quite an incredible time because everyone came together. Instead of being this really competitive capitalist world on that, where everyone was fighting everyone came together and said, what are we going to do? We've all got to work together. It was a beautiful little moment in time. We all hate each other again now, but that moment in time, everyone was together. So the product development side, how do we shift existing product and create new tourism product to meet this new market, was really left to industry associations, of which at the time I was working for one of these. I was the CEO of Ecotourism Australia. And we'd always had, like, we developed the first eco-certification program for ecotourism product. Right back, we started in 1994. In 1996 it was launched. So we've been doing it for a long time. But we also had a climate action certification. And we've been doing that for 20 years. We've also got another certification, respecting our culture. So tourism businesses can work with Indigenous people and develop and advertise to their customers. We get it. We understand how to work with Indigenous people. All of a sudden, we were really popular with the tourism marketing people, because here was a way of proving the genuine and authentic on that. We introduced the eco-certified destinations about 5 years ago. We partnered with Green Destinations, who you've heard talk about a bit. Fantastic program, but it's for sustainable tourism. It's not for ecotourism. So we adapted the criteria of the sustainable destinations, added the eco elements. So we talk about eco destinations. But given the demand for all this product development tools on that, Ecotourism Australia introduced a few new things on that. One is a really simple tool, which is this Strive for Sustainability, and is a real demonstration of what the change in Tourism Australia and things are from the national government. They partnered with Ecotourism Australia to launch this Strive for Sustainability. It's a really simple snapshot. So any tourism business, doesn't matter what you are, an attraction, accommodation or a tour, you can do a very quick snapshot which will give you an assessment of how sustainable you are managing that business and what you can do to fix it up. And it's cheap, it's easy, and it's quick. But also we moved into the sustainable tourism market. So we came up with sustainable tourism certifications and sustainable tourism destination certifications on the. And like while we're meeting here, there's a conference in Australia that is nothing but about sustainable destinations on that. Now that's the first time that's happened in Australia on that. So all these things happen in the last year or 2 years, and it's been so quick on that, and so quickly adopted by the industry, and so quickly adopted by the government on that. We're seeing the result. Like numbers is an easy way to say if things are good or bad on that. You can see there the graph shows that's arrivals on that. But what we focus on, like the previous speaker was talking, how do you measure success on that? One of the key indicators we use is yield. So like how much money are we making out of each visitor? Do you want 100 people and make $1 from each? Or do you want one person and make $100 from that person? Like Bhutan, it's a high yield destination on that. So we measure that yield. That's what we're really focusing on because we want the luxury market and the people who spend money. So we measure how much people spend on that and we divide them in the market. Anyway, that's another discussion on that. So things have gone well. So looking into the future on that, because the last 5 years has been pretty traumatic. So I was at dinner the other night and Mo was talking about karma, how sometimes your body is just holding karma from previous lives and different things like that. And in Australia, we felt that we have really annoyed someone on that because we're being punished by all these bad things on that. But we believe we're on the right path on that. And that's been demonstrated by the numbers are improving. Lots of people are coming, but also the tourist behaviour is changing. Maybe because the products we're displaying or because of what's happened to everyone by COVID. Their expectations have changed, what they're looking for, and their personal behaviour has changed by this reflection that they've done through this staying at home on that. So, and this may have happened to you personally, but you're already kind of in the camp. Like you wouldn't be sitting here unless you believe that sustainability was important. But people who aren't in this room, they're the ones that we're noticing that their behaviour is changing and their expectations are changing. Another thing that I think is a global phenomenon, but it's big in Australia, is this regenerative tourism. Like, I've spent the last 30 years of my life arguing about definitions and I'm tired of it. I think a big part of this is we've just got to accept, like, things change and that. So regenerative tourism to me is a really positive thing. Like, because of what we do in our tourism, the world should be a better place. I think that's a self-evident truth. So I just see it as a next logical extension of tourism. And it's a really important challenge for us all to take on. Is how, by our tourism activities, sustainability is not really enough, to be honest with you. We really need to take that next level. How does the world be better because of what we do on that? So these changes are real. So like tourist behaviour has changed on that. Destinations behaviour has changed. Tourism organisations' behaviours have changed on that. But will this still be the case in a year's time? And I think the biggest challenge for people in this room is to say, how do we work with all the stakeholders to make these changes permanent? Or the first step on an even longer journey on that? Because it's easy. People don't like change. Now, they've made a change. What's going to stop everyone from just slipping back to the bad old ways of, we just saw the previous speaker with the photos, the awful things. We don't want to go back to that world. And there's a real opportunity now to take that step forward, build on this positive change that's come about. I think the last thing that I've got here is this, making the tent bigger. So let's work with our partners. Let's not do a wall, oh, you're not sustainable, I can't talk to you. or you're not doing ecotourism, so I don't talk to you on that. It's very much about come in, open the door, let's talk, let's make a change, let's listen. It's not just us preaching. No one wants to be lectured at, except for you now listening to me. But that engagement, genuine, but you have to listen to people who don't have your same ethos. They don't have the same values. Right. But let's listen. Maybe so they've got some good things there as well. So thank you very much for listening to me. There's my email address if you ever want to make contact. But from a personal point of view, this is my first time in Philippines. And I really want to genuinely thank the way I've been received in this country. I want to thank AEN for inviting me here, and Masaru, wherever he is, for giving me the call to come here. Just as a really quick illustration, last night I had to go back to the hotel early in the afternoon to finish this on that. And the group I'm with, the AEN group, went out for dinner and left me alone and home on that. I felt abandoned on that. So I went down to reception and spoke to the lady who works in reception there. And I said, oh, look, I want to go out for dinner, but I want to have some genuine Filipino food. I've been out for dinner, I've had Italian, I've been out for dinner, I've had Korean, but I've eaten no Filipino food. So this lady said, look, I'll send you to this restaurant where I eat on that. So she organised a van to come and pick me up and drove me about 20 minutes down the road to the restaurant where she eats, where she says she eats every day. So last night I had the pleasure of eating genuine Filipino food, and it was fantastic. Now that would not have happened if you didn't have high quality people working in your hotels and that open and friendly nature of the Filipino personality. So thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that was very, very exciting. We started off with the exercise, and then we ended by showing, by appreciating the hospitality which is in the DNA of all Asians, and Australia is no exception. Thank you. And it's really informative because sometimes we understand that tourism, we understand about tourism, but the link of the tourism stakeholders, which are private, and with the government, and I quite understand, because I also have the same feelings that sometimes I talk, but they turn their head. And when I talk, they are looking at their, you see, there are distractors. And these distractors are challenging, but we never give up. And I think what Rob says about the crisis, you know, was an eye-opener itself. Not that, you know, the crisis was actually a big dilemma that we all had suffered, and we pitied those, and we also understood the you know, the sufferings that everybody had, and still we are still living with COVID. On the creativity part, we also would agree that, of course, we cannot change the map of Australia and say, let's have new names on the map, you know, but we can be very creative in what we are going to do in future as well, and then make them understand it's not just north, there's something that makes it north, you know, and then it's not just south, but there's something that makes it south. And the north and the south is always a division, that the people from the north are fairer and the people in the south are darker, but I think that's the wrong concept itself, because it's not like that. And the people upstream are poor, and the people downstream are richer. Maybe that's not the fact as well. So I'm trying to interpret it the way that we all Asians would need to understand at the same time. And then of the marketing themes that Rob mentioned also about the pushes and the pulls, I really liked about the gastronomy, the food tourism part of it, where when we come to Philippines, what is the best thing to do here? And when we go to Australia, wine. And when we go to Belgium, for example, Europe, that's very far away, and chocolates and things like that. So I don't know whether you understood about the LGBTQIA. That's a tongue twister for me, right? I could step out and then find myself lost as well. But what Rob also mentions about the openness and friendliness, that's in our DNA as well. So the major shocks was on the high expectations that we all had. And I think each and every one, ASEAN member countries, Asian Ecotourism Network, friends, and what Australia went through, we all went through the same thing. So I like that expression that you used on the massive international news of the floods in Australia. And this is one of the things that we always come across, the international news, the impact of the international news as well. And what happens today is actually a history tomorrow. So China's Aussies love affair has fizzled out, and that's a very good expression, because then if it fizzles out, we'll have to start a new love affair. And I hope that this new love affair would be sustainable, and then not that we have to go into marriage, but this love affair would actually generate, as you were talking about, the regeneration, regenerative tourism. On the part that Rob mentions about the COVID lockdown, and we had no tourists, international tourists. Not having international tourists is one thing, but not being able to leave your own place because your loved one is somewhere else, and that's another big issue which we all suffered due to tourism, due to COVID. So the behavioral changes, and that's something that we need to remember to be able to mark down, to note down when we are going for this marketing and promotion. Everybody's going to do the marketing and promotion, and what I understood is that when we do that, we have to understand the changing behavioral of not only the tourists who are coming in, and but we should also understand the communities as well as the destination, as well as the changing behavior of the governance. You see, because each and every one of us, we have the DMOs, but some DMOs have a voice to the national government, and in some countries it's the national government that dictates everything. So it is something that we have to have that balance. Thank you very much.